Hello, my name is Sally and welcome to my channel. In the video today, we are going to talk about describing a picture. And we're going to focus on speaking. This kind of question comes up in many different types of English tests. So for example, it does come up on the Duolingo English test, even if you don't get it on your practice test. I remember being surprised by this question on the actual Duolingo English test because I didn't get this question on any of the practice tests that I took. So be aware, it will come up. Well, I guess I should say it might come up because I'm not sure if everybody gets this question. If you have taken the Duolingo English test and you did get this question, comment below and let us all know how frequently it comes up. But it also comes up on placement tests. So for example, if you're going to an English-speaking country to a language program, they often begin the semester by testing your English level to put you in the right class. And one of the questions is usually an oral interview type of question. And the interviewer may hold up a photo and ask you to describe it. So in many different situations, you don't have a lot of time to think about what to say about the picture. So in the video today, we're going to talk about that. Now, one thing to remember is everybody gets nervous when you have to speak to another person, or even when you're speaking to a camera and you know it's graded. It can be awkward. But keep in mind that everybody gets nervous. Nobody is really looking for you to be perfect. Everybody knows that it's an awkward situation. Yes, the graders are assessing your English, but keep in mind everybody's nervous, so your nervousness is not going to stand out. I've gotten several questions about people saying they're pausing too much when they have to speak. And I want to remind you that everybody pauses when they speak. It's okay. See, I just did it. I just said, and I've gotten questions about that too. People are always upset when they say, It's just a natural thing that we do. It's not great. It's not something that we want to do because it does interrupt the flow of the language. But even native speakers go, So don't worry too much about it. Know that it's natural, move on past it, and just think of what you want to say next. So, my tips for you. The first thing you want to do when you get a describe a photo image is take a deep breath and allow yourself just to take some time to think about it. If you pause before you begin to speak, it's okay. You're allowed to do that. And if you have a question that you're supposed to speak about and it's 3 minutes and you're afraid that you cannot fill the 3 minutes, you can focus on speaking at a slow, but not too slow of a pace, but slow down. Often when we're nervous, we speak fast. So if you can focus on taking that deep breath and concentrating on speaking slowly and clearly, that will help you. Now, what are you going to talk about? Whether it's a writing prompt or a speaking prompt, the first thing you do is you focus on what was the photographer taking a picture of? What is it a picture of? And you say, this is a picture of. Now, it may be a picture of a horse. It may be a picture of a person. Whatever you see as the subject, this is your first sentence. After you say that, you can go on to describe the details of the photo. What's on the left side? What's on the right side? Good vocabulary to learn is foreground and background. So you can say, in the foreground, I see. In the background, there is. These are phrases that you can memorize. Now, speaking about memorization, I've had a few people leave me comments that they have these memorized phrases that they're going to say. Sometimes they're really strange or unique phrases. You don't want to do that, especially on something like the Duolingo English test. I've seen a couple of people have their test rejected. They've gotten the response that their test could not be certified because their answer sounded too rehearsed. So if you've got something very unique that you're planning to say, rethink that. It's okay to memorize phrases like this picture depicts, this is a picture of, in the foreground there is, in the background there is. That's okay. But if you've got some kind of unique phrase that you want to say, you may get your test rejected, or your test may be rejected because of it sounding too rehearsed. All right, so let's get back to what you're going to talk about. After you have described the elements that are in the photograph, this is where you can get a little bit creative and you can say what you think about something in the photo. Like a judgment, you can say, the photograph is beautiful, or you can say a story about what's happening in the photograph. I think the best way to explain this is to show you an example. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to show you some images. You should pause this video and take some time to look at the images and think about how you would respond. And then I will respond with my suggested answer. Your answer does not have to be the same as mine. You may see your picture as something totally different. That's okay. But I'm just giving you some examples of how I would describe these images. All right, let's try it.
Pause the video to allow yourself time to answer each picture. I suggest you give yourselves 3 minutes, as this is the time that I was given on the Duolingo English test. The first thing that I would do when this image popped up is take 15 or 20 seconds and just think of what adjectives come to my mind. It's sort of like brainstorming, and it gives you a way to think about the image, and it brings these adjectives into your mind. And then I would just start talking. This is a photograph of a fisherman. He is standing on a boat in the middle of a lake. When I look at his hat, I'm reminded of the style of hat that I associate with Asia. So I believe this is a scene from somewhere in Asia. In the background, I can see mountains and trees, and there's also an embankment with a small building. The small building could be a house. Maybe it's the fisherman's house. The image appears to have been taken in the morning, as there's mist coming off the water. The mist makes the whole scene look very peaceful. The light is also peaceful. The light's not very strong, but I can see by the angle of the light that the sun is rising behind the mountains. This photograph captures the moment that the fisherman just cast his net. The net is in mid-air. Maybe the fisherman has just started fishing for the day, and the day is full of hope for successful catch. Now, I did not speak for the entire 3 minutes, but I was satisfied with my response. So I get a lot of questions asking me if it's necessary to speak for the entire time. And no, it isn't, but you do want to make sure that you've given enough of a description that you describe the image to your satisfaction. If you think there's more that you can say about the photograph, you can keep going. If you think that your response will start to become a little bit too rambly or off topic, then I would stop. So use your judgment. If you have enough to say about the photograph, you can continue to talk. But if you really don't have any more things to say that are relevant to the photo, just move on. Now, sometimes you're going to come across a photograph to describe that maybe you don't know exactly what really is happening in the photograph, and you're just describing what you think. Now, it's perfectly fine. You handle it the same way that you handle any other descriptive photograph. So I'm sure a lot of you know what this is a photograph of, but as an American, this is obviously not a part of my culture, so you can see how I would describe this photograph. So the first thing that I'm going to do is think of adjectives. And let's do this aloud. So I see happy people. Joyous comes to mind. Colorful, bright, festive. These are the words that come into my mind. So I'm going to think of them in the back of my mind as I do my response. So let's start with my response. This is a photograph of a girl sprinkling colorful powder into the air around her. To her left, there's another girl who also appears to be sprinkling powder into the air. And everyone around seems to be enjoying themselves. Everyone seems happy, they're talking, they're laughing, and they even seem receptive to this powder, even though it's obviously messy. I predict that everyone in this area is going to be wearing this powder. Judging by the appearance of the people, including their hair and skin color, as well as the bright colored clothing, I would say this photograph appears to have been taken in India. The girl who's the focus of the photo is wearing a purple scarf over a mustard colored or earth colored dress. The skin on her face and hands is covered in the powder. It looks like a joyful celebration, and I can imagine that these people must be laughing, and it must be some sort of festival or maybe even a traditional festival or a holiday. I would love to learn more about this holiday because everyone seems to be so happy. It looks like a great coming together of the community. Okay, for this image, I'm going to start by saying my adjectives out loud. Now, when you're doing this on the test, you can probably just think about your adjectives, but the main ones that come into my mind for this one would be golden, peaceful, orange. It's a very orange picture. Um, Sunset. These are words that come into my mind for this image. And because this image seems to me to be more about the emotion, I'm going to focus on that. So I would start by saying the focus of this image is the beautiful and relaxing sunset. In this image, I can see a large boat silhouetted against the bright orange sky. In the background, I can see a mountain that's also silhouetted against the vibrant sky. I've heard this time of day referred to as the golden hour. It's a time of day when the light makes everything seem to be cast in gold. When I look at this image, I feel relaxed. I can imagine being on a boat myself. I think about the feeling of the movement as the boat passes through the water. The movement of the rippling water and the sound that I know it makes is also very relaxing. I think sunsets at the beach are absolutely beautiful and peaceful, and I long for a time that I can return to the beach. Okay, for this one, we can also start by thinking of words or adjectives that you want to include. For me, I might say, obviously, wolves, dominance and submission, forest, they're wild animals. Wolves live in a pack. I could think of adjectives to describe the background. I could say green, plants, anything like that. I see shadows. So these would be the words or the keywords that I'm thinking of, and then I would go in and start my response. So in this photograph, I see 3 wolves. The wolves seem very familiar with each other, so I assume they are part of a pack. The wolf closest to the front seems to have almost a sad or worried expression. I imagine that this wolf is submissive to the other more dominant wolf that seems to be biting at its muzzle. There's a third wolf behind the other 2 that seems to be looking off in another direction, but by its closeness to the other 2, I assume that it's also involved in whatever is happening between the other 2 wolves. The wolves appear to be located in a forest. I can see shadows of the trees on the grass in the background. I also see what I think is natural plants in the foreground. So I assume this photo was not taken in a zoo. Zoos typically have a more artificial appearance. Wolf packs are very interesting, and as we can see in this photo, there's obviously a social hierarchy that exists within this pack. Okay, for this photo, just like the others, I'm going to start by telling you some of my adjectives. Fluffy clouds, vibrant green, tall grass, weeds, lush. This whole scene looks very lush. The plants look very healthy. With that, I'm going to go ahead and give you my description. This is a photo of a small rural area. In the center of the photograph, there's a road that leads us into a small community that can be seen in the distance. Along the sides of the road, I see tall grass and weeds, as well as bushes, and a beautiful meadow. Around the houses, there are beautiful trees. The greenery looks very lush and vibrant. It's all varying shades of rich green color. The sky is a deep blue with fluffy white clouds. The road that leads us into the picture is a very narrow road. This road reminds me of the kind of small roads that can be found in small European towns. Maybe it's a path for bicycles or a walking path. This looks like a very relaxing place, and I think it would be a great place to live.
All right, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that it's been helpful for you. If you have any questions, you can leave them in the comments below. See you in the next video.